They plowed harder, pulled heavier, and worked longer than anything else on the market. Some were built in barns by farmers who were tired of waiting for manufacturers to catch up. Others were engineering masterpieces that arrived just in time to watch their entire brand disappear. These were farm machines so powerful, so ahead of their time, that the industry was not ready for them. And instead of becoming legends, they became footnotes. Here are 10 powerful farm machines that deserved better. Number 10. Cockshutt 570. The Cockshutt 570 was a machine built by a Canadian company that most people today have never heard of. Cockshutt Farm Equipment, based in Brantford, Ontario, had been building agricultural machinery since 1839 and tractors since the 570, introduced in 1958, was powered by a Hercules 6-cylinder diesel engine producing approximately 70 horsepower, which was strong for its class at the time. What made the 570 special was its combination of a live power takeoff, a live hydraulic system, and independent rear brakes, features that many competing tractors still lacked. It was a smooth, reliable workhorse that could handle everything from heavy plowing to row crop cultivation. The 570 represented the peak of Cockshutt's independent tractor design. But the 570 arrived just as the consolidation storm hit the tractor industry. In 1962, Cockshutt was absorbed into the White Motor Corporation, which also swallowed Oliver and Minneapolis-Moline. The Cockshutt name lingered on some machines for a few years, but was eventually phased out entirely. By 1969, the distinctive red and cream Cockshutt tractors were gone from dealer showrooms forever. The 570 deserved a longer run. Number 9. Allis-Chalmers D21. When Allis-Chalmers introduced the D21 in 1963, it shattered a barrier that no other row crop tractor had broken before. The D21 was the first Allis-Chalmers tractor to exceed 100 horsepower, producing 103 horsepower from a 426 cubic inch direct injection diesel engine. It was the most powerful row crop tractor available in the entire industry when it launched. The D21 was loaded with firsts for Allis-Chalmers. It was their first tractor with a direct injection diesel engine, first with independent power takeoff, and first with hydrostatic power steering and a tilt steering wheel. It could pull a 7-bottom plow on level ground, which was a serious accomplishment. In 1965, the Series 2 version added a turbocharger, pushing output to approximately 128 horsepower and generating over 15,000 pounds of drawbar pull. Only 1,129 units of the original Series 1 were built, making them rare even when they were new. Despite this impressive engineering, the D21 was replaced in 1970 by the 220, and Allis-Chalmers continued to struggle against John Deere and International Harvester. The entire Allis-Chalmers agricultural division was sold to Deutz-Fahr of Germany in 1985, ending the brand that had been building farm equipment since 1847. The distinctive Persian orange color vanished from American farms, and the D21 became a prized collector's item instead of the dynasty starter it should have been. Number 8. Minneapolis-Moline G1000. Minneapolis-Moline was a company that consistently built tractors ahead of its time but never got the credit it deserved. The G1000, introduced in late 1965, was a perfect example. Powered by a 504 cubic inch 6-cylinder diesel engine producing 110 PTO horsepower at 1,800 RPM in Nebraska testing, the G1000 was a legitimate powerhouse for mid-1960s farming. The engine's lineage traced back to the late 1930s when it began life as a gasoline unit. Minneapolis-Moline adapted it to diesel using their Lanova power cell combustion chamber system. And by 1962, they had bored out from 425 to 504 cubic inches. The G1000 came standard with the Amplitorque transmission, which was Minneapolis-Moline's proprietary torque amplifier that allowed operators to split each of the 5 main gears for 10 working speeds. Standard equipment also included power steering, a dual-speed PTO, and a 3-point hitch, but fate was already closing in. White Motor Corporation had purchased Minneapolis-Moline in 1963, and the G1000 was replaced by the G105 in late 1969. By 1971, the G105 was done, and the Minneapolis-Moline brand was being systematically dismantled. The famous prairie gold color was retired, and everything was folded into the white tractor line. A tractor this capable should have launched a dynasty. Instead, it watched its own brand name fade into history. Number 7. International Harvester HT3430. This one never even made it to production. In 1961, International Harvester unveiled the HT340, a concept tractor designed for what they called the jet age. It was a turbine-powered machine running on a gas turbine engine rather than a conventional diesel. The concept was radical for farming: a lightweight, high-power engine with fewer moving parts than a diesel, potentially lower maintenance, and the ability to run on multiple fuel types. The HT340 was part of a wave of experimental thinking at International Harvester. They displayed it at farm shows, and it generated enormous excitement. Farmers were fascinated by the idea of a turbine-powered tractor. The smooth, vibration-free power delivery was unlike anything they had experienced, but the economics killed it. Gas turbines consumed far more fuel than diesels for the same work output, and the manufacturing costs were prohibitive. International Harvester shelved the project and returned to refining conventional diesel tractors. The HT340 remains one of the most intriguing what-if machines in agricultural history, a vision of a farming future that never arrived. Number 6. Oliver, 1955. The Oliver 1955 was a powerhouse that arrived just as the Oliver brand was being dismantled. Introduced in late 1969 as part of the 55 series, the 1955 was equipped with a turbocharged diesel engine producing 108 PTO horsepower. It offered a 6-speed gear transmission with an optional 18-speed partial power shift, giving operators extraordinary flexibility in the field. The 1955 featured power steering, differential hydraulic disc brakes, and was available in both 2-wheel and 4-wheel drive configurations. For its era, the combination of power, transmission options, and versatility made it one of the most capable row crop tractors on the market. The hydraulic system was robust enough to handle the heaviest implements of the day, but the Oliver name was already a ghost walking. Oliver had been acquired by White Motor Corporation back in 1960, along with Cockshutt and Minneapolis-Moline. Throughout the late 1960s and early 1970s, White gradually stripped the individual brand identities and merged everything into the White tractor line. The Oliver 1955 was produced until 1974, but by then, the legendary green and white Oliver paint scheme was being phased out in favor of White's silver branding. The Oliver Corporation, which traced its roots back to 1855 through its predecessor companies, simply ceased to exist as a distinct brand. Number 5. Steiger. Number 1. Barney. This is the story of a farm machine that was not built by a corporation. It was built in a dairy barn. Over the winter of 1957 to 1958, 3 men from the Steiger family, Father John and sons Douglas and Maurice, decided they needed a tractor with more horsepower than anything commercially available. So they built one from scratch on their farm near Red Lake Falls, Minnesota. Using salvaged parts from mining equipment found on the Iron Range of northeastern Minnesota, new tires and hydraulic components, the Steigers assembled a 4-wheel drive tractor in just 57 days at a material cost of roughly $9,200. The finished machine weighed 15,000 pounds and produced approximately 220 flywheel horsepower from a diesel engine that had previously been used in an Allis-Chalmers HD14 crawler. It was painted lime green because Douglas had seen Euclid construction equipment in that color and thought it would make their tractor stand out. In its first spring, John Steiger plowed with 12 bottoms, and in one 15-hour day the Steiger brothers cultivated 300 acres. The tractor was steered with a joystick-like lever rather than a conventional steering wheel. Steiger Number 1 accumulated 10,000 hours of field time over 10 years before being retired. It is now preserved at the Bonanzaville Museum in West Fargo, North Dakota. But the original Steiger Tractor Company itself did not survive. Despite growing to over 1,100 employees and producing tractors with up to 525 horsepower, the farm crisis of the 1980s forced Steiger into bankruptcy. Case IH purchased the company in 1986, retired the lime green color, and absorbed the technology into their own lineup. The Steiger name eventually returned as a Case IH sub-brand, but the independent company that started in a Minnesota dairy barn was gone. Number 4. Allis-Chalmers Fuel Cell Tractor. In the 1950s, while every other manufacturer was refining diesel and gasoline engines, Allis-Chalmers was doing something no one else had even considered. They built a tractor powered by a fuel cell. A fuel cell converts chemical energy directly into electrical energy without combustion. It was space-age technology applied to a farm field. The Allis-Chalmers Fuel Cell Tractor was demonstrated in 1959 and used 1,008 individual fuel cells stacked together to produce enough electricity to drive the tractor. It actually functioned. It could plow a field using hydrogen and oxygen as fuel, producing only water as a byproduct. It was, in concept, the cleanest farm machine ever conceived. But 1959 was decades too soon for this technology. The fuel cells were fantastically expensive to manufacture. Hydrogen infrastructure did not exist. The tractor was economically impractical by any measure. Allis-Chalmers treated it as a research project and a publicity tool rather than a commercial product. The concept was shelved, and the company went back to building conventional tractors. Today, as the world races toward hydrogen fuel cell technology for vehicles and industry, the Allis-Chalmers Fuel Cell Tractor looks less like a curiosity and more like a prophecy that arrived 60 years early. Number 3. International Harvester Farm, All 12006. When International Harvester released the Farmall 1206 in 1965, it became the first row crop tractor in the industry to produce more than 100 PTO horsepower from the factory with a turbocharged engine. The 1206 was powered by a 361 cubic inch 6-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine, producing 112 PTO horsepower, and it announced a new era of power farming. The 1206 was a big, heavy, serious machine. It weighed over 12,000 pounds and could pull enormous implements through the toughest soils. It featured International Harvester's torque amplifier transmission, which gave operators the ability to shift under load, a massive advantage when conditions changed mid-field. The turbocharged diesel was smooth and responsive, and farmers who drove it immediately understood that the future of farming was in turbocharged power. Despite being a landmark machine, the Farmall 1206 had a production run of only about 2 years before being replaced by the 1256 and then the 1456. Each successor brought incremental improvements, but none had the same impact as the original 1206 breakthrough. International Harvester itself would not survive the decade of the 1980s as an independent agricultural company. In 1985, the agricultural division was sold to Tenneco and merged with Case to form Case IH. The Farmall name, once the most recognized brand in American farming, was retired for years before being revived as a sub-brand in 2003. Number 2. Versatile A 118. The Versatile Manufacturing Company of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, was a scrappy upstart that specialized in building machines for the brutal conditions of the Canadian prairies. The Versatile A 118, introduced in 1966, was one of the earliest high-horsepower four-wheel drive articulated tractors to be mass-produced and sold at an affordable price point. With 118 horsepower from a Cummins diesel engine driving all four wheels through an articulated frame, the Versatile A 118 could handle the vast, flat wheat fields of the Canadian prairies and the northern Great Plains like no two-wheel drive tractor could. The articulated design, where the tractor bends in the middle to steer, gave it tight turning ability despite its large size and provided superior traction in soft or muddy conditions. Versatile continued to grow and eventually offered tractors with over 500 horsepower. But the company changed hands repeatedly. It was purchased by Cornat Industries in 1976, then by the Ford Motor Company's New Holland division in 1987. The Versatile brand was later sold to Buhler Industries in 2000. Through all these ownership changes, the original independent spirit of the Winnipeg-based company was diluted. The Versatile A 118 represented a moment when a small Canadian manufacturer dared to challenge the giants and won, at least on the field. Number 1. Lamborghini DL25. Before Ferruccio Lamborghini became famous for building some of the world's most exotic sports cars, he was a tractor manufacturer. After serving as a mechanic in the Italian army during World War II, Lamborghini returned home and began buying surplus military vehicles and converting them into agricultural machines. He sold enough to open his own tractor factory in 1949 in Cento, Italy. The DL25, introduced in 1951, was one of his early production models. Powered by a 25-horsepower diesel engine, it was not the most powerful tractor on the market, but it was exactly what post-war Italian farmers needed: affordable, reliable, and fuel-efficient. By 1958, Lamborghini's tractor company was producing 1,500 tractors per year. He expanded his lineup to include four-wheel drive models, crawler tractors, and machines with up to several hundred horsepower. Legend has it that the entire Lamborghini sports car company was born from a complaint about a faulty clutch in Ferruccio's Ferrari. Whether or not that story is exactly true, what is true is that by the mid-1960s, Ferruccio shifted his focus to building exotic cars, and the tractor business began to lose priority. Lamborghini Trattori was eventually sold off, passing through multiple owners. The tractor brand still exists today under the same Diozfar group, but the direct connection to Ferruccio's original vision has been diluted through decades of corporate ownership changes. The DL25 and its successors were the machines that built the fortune that launched one of the most famous car brands in history. And almost nobody remembers that Lamborghini was a tractor company first. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me which of these forgotten machines impressed you the most. I will see you in the next one.